Good morning and welcome to Saturday special of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. Gotra. The word Gotra and the caste are often deemed synonyms, which they are not. The Indian concept of Gotra has been in news recently thanks to the Khap Panchayats, the local bodies, community organizations that have been instrumental in hanging people, killing people, simply because they married each other. And the marriage was against the concept of Gotra, they belong to the same Gotra. Sometimes they were hanged, killed, and the families ostracized simply because they belong to the same village. Now, what is Gotra? People talk of Gotra, but they are not very clear, and the concepts are very hazy. The origin of Gotra is rooted in historical past, so much so that you cannot definitely pinpoint. There's no carbon testing for this. But the Rig Veda uses this term for the first time. And according to Rig Veda, Gotra is simply a cow pen, a stable, or a place where cows are kept. Gotra is a herd, of course. The specific meaning would be family lineage kit, as it was at that time. It was a herd within an enclosure. As a family lived in four walls or fenced area. As the cows live in the fenced area, it was called a cow pen. And for the human beings, it was translated into Gotra. And the first recorded mention is first millennium BC, 1 millennium before Christ. And Chandogya Upanishad mentions the word Gotra. These lineages, as they developed among the Brahmins at that time, meant patrilineal descent. It was not matriarchal. Let's be very clear. Indian society, barring some exceptions in Kerala or the tribal areas, was to begin with matriarchal, but then by the time the thoughts crystallized, it became a patriarchal. So the lineage was patriarchal. The Brahminical system adopted this concept of Gotra, and then it was adopted by the other communities like Khatris, Vaishyas. All members of a particular Gotra are believed to possess certain common characteristics, and they can be by nature or they can be by profession. And when they were deemed by profession, they degenerated into caste system. According to Vedic theories, the Brahmins are the direct descendants of seven sages who are believed to be sons of the creator of the world, Brahma. These seven sages did not have a normal birth. They were born out of the mind through the yogic powers. They are Shandliya, Gautam, Bhardwaj, Vishwamitra, Jamdagni, Vishist, Kashyap, and Atri. And sometimes some people do add Agastya to this list, so making it eight. And these eight sages are called Gotrakarins. So they are the originators, and from there originated 49 Gotras. And all the 49 Gotras were primarily of Brahmins, and they evolved. For instance, Atri spring became Atriya and Gavishta Gotras. I was reading Robert Wayne Russell, the great Indologist, And he writes that many Gotras of Hindu caste and are in fact totemic in origin. Totemic, they are from totems. Like if you have gone to Africa or to Latin America, the poles are there with the totem poles, they call it. So these Gotras were the sort of sociological totem poles, and they were named after plants, animals, natural objects. These are universal among non-Aryan and primitive tribes. Now, Aryans came much later. Gotras that started even before the Aryans came. And that is often ignored by the hardcore Hindutva people. But though they are universal among the non-Aryans, many Hindu castes adopted totems. And these commonest totem names are those of animals, including several which are held sacred by the Hindus as Bagh or Nahar, the tiger, Bachas, the calf, Murkuria, the peacock, Kachua or lemon, the tortoise, Naga, the cobra, Hasti, the elephant, Bhansa, the buffalo, Richeria, the bear, Kulia, the jackal, Kurkura, the dog, Karsyal, the deer, and Hiran, the black buck, and so on. And the utmost variety of the names is found, and numerous trees as well. Sandalwood, cucumber, pepper, household implements like pestle, rolling slab serve as the name of the clans. Thus, the names of the rishis and saints, Bhardwaj. Now, Bhardwaj means a lark, it's a bird. And Koshak means descended from Kusha. Kusha is a grass. If you remember the story of Chanakya, he was pulling out Kusha grass and started trying to burn it. Agastya comes from Agasti flower. Kashyap from Kachap, a tortoise. Tatri is from Titar. Titar is the Hindi name for partridge. Similar, the names of other rishis is attributed to animals. Rishtenga is antelope. Mandva is a frog. Kannada is an owl. So all these names basically descended from animals or trees, and they were taken up by the clans as totem poles. They took their name. So the totem pole is there with the tree or with that bird or with that animal as depicted. And then to create an identity, the whole clan takes that name and that becomes the Gotra. And now what happens? Since you have taken that name, you abstain from killing and eating them. So a Gotra has to be distinguished from Kula. Kula is equal to a particular family, equal to modern day clans. It does relate to lineage or caste, but it's not that. Now, in Hindu culture, as I said, the term Gotra is considered equivalent to a lineage. Now, here is something very important. Gotras form exogenic unit. Within the marriage of the same Gotra is prohibited. But then, many times, Gotra is used as a surname. But one thing you are forgetting, that Gotra is basically male oriented, as I said. The moment a girl is born in a certain Gotra, she marries somebody else. So he doesn't belong to that Gotra. She belongs to the Gotra of her husband. Panini, the great grammar writer, defines Gotra as someone who has descended from something. The word Gotra denotes apatya of a couple considering a Pautra, that's son. Bharti is a mother, that's a daughter-in-law. So you basically trace your lineage from patriarchal system, unbroken male descent, and Gotra remains the same, but women Gotra changes. Now, if we look at Brihadratha Upanishad, chapter 2, they say that the progeny of 7 sages declared to be Gotras, they were known to Panini, and the three sages who followed this system, they are called Triyarishi. Similarly, for 5 sages it was Pancharishi, and 7 sages it was Saptarishi. So there exists another theory about the Gotras. Sons and disciples of a sage would have the same Gotra because they had been brought up with the same philosophy. Now here there's nothing to do with the lineage. It is only because of the philosophy. And the people of the same Gotras can be found across different castes. So each Gotra comprises various parvars, families. And the parvar in Hindu Dharma is extensively used in identifying your ancestry, giving salutation to the listener. And in Vedic ritual, the importance of parvar appears to be its use of ritualistic by extolling the ancestry. Generally, there are 3, 5, or 7 parvars. And the full affiliation consists of Gotra, Sutra, Parvar. As a matter of fact, the Gotras were classified initially according to 7 rishis, as I said, and then they prevailed. Now, you normally think that Gotra is identical to DNA. It's not. Gotra is not DNA. Gotra is typically the Y chromosomes. Now, scientific explanation, as given by the scientists, is that Y chromosome passed on in generations in genomic parlance. So you inherit a Gotra from your father and pass it on if you're a male. And the women who are born with Gotra of their father, she inherits her husband's Gotra. So it's a Y chromosome and not the X chromosome which identifies your Gotra. Now, what's the social relevance? Economics is that it will sociological, the philosophical is the same, belong to the same philosophy. So, but social is that the marriages is a major social event in the people. So marriage within the Gotras are not permitted under the rules of exogamy, the traditional matrimonial system. So Gotra is a union of Sa and Gotra. Sa means the same, Gotra is similar. So you can't have Sagotra. And in the Hindu marriage, to inquire about Kul Gotra is important so that the Sagotra doesn't take place. But marriage within the Jati is preferred. Now here's a very great system. You marry within your own caste because caste was essentially economic in nature. You could belong to, say, Bharvat Gotra and do the work of a Vash. So you could not marry in the Bharvat Gotra, but you could marry a Vash who might belong to a different Gotra. And this is often confused. When the people say you can't intercaste marriage, basically not intergotra marriage. The objection is to intergotra marriage and not to the the objection is to intercaste marriage, not to intergotra. Intergotra marriage is prohibited. And even the Hindu Marriage Act says Pinda relationship is not permitted. Now, Jats and Rajputs have 3,000 Gotras. And if you go to Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu, the Mudrilaras have got 2,600 Gotras. You know, those 7 Gotras, then they became 8 with the Agastya issue, then they became 49. And slowly and steadily, as the population increased and the people were mobile, they shifted from one place to another. Say, number of Gotras increased. Now, the Tatsma words, Sahodra and Sahodri, Sahodri is sister, Sahodra is brother, derive from their roots from the Sanskrit word Sa Udara, Sahodar, means co-uterine, born of the same womb. So you are Sahodra in the Gotra of your own. Now, a much more common practice of South Indian Hindu marriage is the permission between cross cousins. Children of brothers and sisters, they can be married. Now, imagine there are two siblings, one brother, but the sister goes and marries somebody else. So she belongs to a different Gotra. So the son or daughter of the brother can marry son or the daughter of the sister because they now belong to different Gotras. Although genetically they are the same, brother and sister, though they divided into Gotras, different Gotras because of the marriage system, essentially have the same DNA. So that's why I said DNA is not an important part of Gotra. A man is allowed to marry his maternal uncle's daughter and paternal aunt's daughter, but he cannot marry paternal uncle's daughter. Now here is it. Paternal uncle is same Gotra. Maternal uncle is different Gotra, so you can marry. Now North Indian society is different. They follow the rule of Gotra, but there are many regulations that go beyond the definition of Gotra. Some communities in North India do not allow marriage within the other clans based on belief that both clans are the same paternal descent. So, as I said, those seven original Gotras became 8, then 49, and now 6,000. Sorry, 600. So, naturally, some people think that they're still Gotra. They have come from the same family. So, in many communities, however, the marriage between the Gotra, the mother's father, and possibly some others prohibited. So they go up to maternal grandfather. A possible workaround to form is adoption of the bride to a family of a different Gotra. So this is what they do. They want to marry a girl, they say, okay, let some other Gotra adopt this girl. Then we'll marry this. This is just a camouflage to hide it. The Vedic Hindu system, the Vedic Hinduism, recognizes 8 types of marriages. And they follow the principle as stated in Manu Smriti. The 8 types of marriage are Brahm Viva, Arsh Viva, Dev Viva, Prajapatya Viva, Gandharva Viva, Asura Viva, Raksh Viva, and Vasya Viva. The first 4 types of marriages reflect the paradigm behind the arranged marriage. The last 3 are prohibited as per Manu, of which the last 2 are condemned. Asura Viva is Asura, is demon. Gandharva has been given a lot of prominence in Shastras. But Vedic Hinduism, giving way to classic Hinduism, the concept of arranged marriages got prominence, and today the ritual is a marriage between 2 individuals. But one fact remains the same, that it should not be according to the Hindu marriage at Spinda and mythology, the same Gotra. Now, what's the legal situation? Well said. Gotras are almost universally used in India, determining excluding marriages that would traditionally be considered an act of incest. And they're not legally recognized as such within the Spinda system. Spinda is, if you are within the 7th Spinda, you're not going to marry. I was referring to Khap Panchayats in Haryana. They have campaigned to legally ban marriages within Gotra. And they want amendment of the Hindu Marriage Act to do that. In 1945, there was a case in court, Madhavan and Rangabrao, and they said that the definition of Gotra as descending from 8 sages would, if taken literally, practically 80% of the marriage will be thrown out. They'll be illegal. So matter went to the Bombay High Court, and the court recalled the idea of Brahmin families descending from unbroken line as indicated by the name of the respected Gotra, impossible to accept. They said, no, this we are not going to accept. What we say is Pinda that goes only up to the seven, within the circle of seven close relationship. So good social behavior and the general ideology of Hindu society has changed. Now, people talk of Hindu system of Gotra. Does it not exist in other culture? It does. Gotra may not be called Gotra, it might be given some other name. But the group identity is a must. For example, in the traditional societies in Asia, China, Korea, Vietnam, Philippines, and even in Africa, the Gotra word is not used, but the group identity is there. In China, for example, 10th century treatises there, Baju Singh. Baju Singh lists the most common family names, surnames in the Chinese history, which can be traced back to thousands of years. And to this day, people with the same surname have a sense of familiar kinship. In Korea, families belong to Bon Guan, influence their social mobility. But the most important is the economics. The centrality of the Gothas is the traditional society was required because there was absence of the formal financial markets. There was no insurance opportunity. So when you are in a Gotra and you become destitute, is the responsibility of the other members of the Gotra to look after you. Attention of the research literature establishes that Gotras and the Jatis played a great part in business investment, in employment, in risk taking, and in social welfare. So the economic aspect cannot be ignored. And in less developed economies where there is a market failure, social capital and social networks play a great role. And that social network role was assumed by Gotras, which was basically a kin based social safety net. So I'll call Gotra basically a primitive form of a social safety net, what we call welfare state today. So, bottom line is that it might seem regressive, but the kinship networks derived from lineage have an economic pinning and a social pinning. But the obsession with Gotra reflects nothing more than cynical identity politics at work. Now, there was a question yesterday raised by Mr. Singh Jaspal. He said Guru Gobind Singh had established a class, a society. Yes, he has. And it's coming back. Yes, that's being exploited by the politicians. But the classless society has nothing to do with the Gotra system. As I said, Gotra was primarily based on the lineage and exogamy, so that people do not have the incestuous relationship. And then Gobind Singh never said so. All the original five classes belong to the depressed classes. He brought the depressed classes up. That's why I said it's important to differentiate between Gotras and the caste system. Gobind Singh and all of the social reformers have been against the caste system. No social reformer has ever criticized or condemned the Gotra system. They are two absolutely different things. But it's either the semi-educated and uneducated or the biased politicians who misuse Gotra term, take it away from its security network and economic bias and try to exploit it. That Gotra by itself is much more scientific and much more of an economic, having economic parameters with social safety network being the case. It's not caste system. It might have been used to create caste classes, but you cannot blame it per se. And as I said earlier, it's not only in India, it is in practically all traditional societies. And traditional societies have either been in Asia or in Africa or in Latin America. Europe doesn't have traditional societies per se. They might have Greek civilization and Roman civilization, but not millennials before Christ. No. So we have got to see. Basically, the totem started in Africa and they traveled to India, Asia, China, and then they went to Europe and was the last state. But the native Canadians, for example, and the Native Americans, the Indian Americans, they have the totem poles and they have this Gotra system and the class society. They will not marry within their clan. They will not have, and then that's a very close knit society. Here in Canada also you can see the same thing. So it's a universal thing, but taken more as an economic and a social network than as a divisive caste system. Thank you.